You need to hear this if you care about your wallet and the future of American business. Let's start with the basics. A tariff is a tax on imported goods, making foreign products more expensive and encouraging Americans to buy domestic. In April 2025, President Trump introduced the Liberation Day tariffs, a sweeping policy that applied to nearly all imports from almost every country. The administration claimed these tariffs would boost American manufacturing and serve as leverage in foreign policy. But the immediate effect was a sharp rise in costs for U.S. companies relying on imports, from clothing retailers to tech firms. These costs were passed down the supply chain, ultimately raising prices for American consumers on everything from t-shirts to smartphones. The policy generated massive revenue. In July 2025 alone, the government collected $30 billion in tariffs, with a total of $72 billion by late August. The administration touted this as economic strength, but critics argued it was simply a tax on American businesses and families. The Liberation Day tariffs were unprecedented in scope, affecting nearly every sector of the economy. The debate quickly shifted from economics to legality. Could the president really impose such sweeping tariffs without Congress? This question would soon be tested in the courts, setting the stage for a historic legal battle. The stakes were enormous, with billions of dollars and the future of presidential power on the line. As the legal challenges mounted, the nation watched to see if the courts would uphold or strike down this bold new policy. The answer would have far-reaching consequences for American businesses, consumers, and the balance of power in Washington. Businesses across the country quickly sued, arguing that President Trump had overstepped his authority by using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, to impose what amounted to a massive tax. The U.S. Court of International Trade agreed, ruling that the president had exceeded the powers granted by the IEEPA. The court found that while the act allows for certain economic sanctions, it does not give the president the unilateral power to impose broad-based tariffs. The Trump administration appealed, but the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit upheld the lower court's decision in a 7-4 ruling. The majority opinion was clear: only Congress can impose taxes on the American people. This was a direct challenge to the president's authority and a major blow to his signature economic policy. President Trump warned that the ruling would literally destroy the United States of America. But the administration pressed on, determined to take the fight to the Supreme Court. The legal battle was now set for the nation's highest court, with the future of presidential power hanging in the balance. The outcome would determine not just the fate of the tariffs, but the limits of executive authority in economic policy. All eyes turned to the Supreme Court for a final answer. The Supreme Court took up the case, focusing on a fundamental question: did the IEEPA give the president the power to impose sweeping tariffs? On September 11, 2025, the court ruled decisively against the administration, striking down the Liberation Day tariffs. The justices emphasized that the Constitution gives Congress, not the president, the authority to tax. The ruling drew a clear line. Regulating commerce is not the same as imposing taxes. The decision reaffirmed the principle of checks and balances, limiting the president's power even during emergencies. The immediate effect: the tariffs were halted, and the legal foundation for their collection was erased. But a new question emerged: what would happen to the billions already collected? For American families, the end of the tariffs means relief at the cash register. The Tax Foundation estimated the tariffs cost households an extra $1,300 in 2025. With the tariffs gone, prices on imported goods, from electronics to clothing, are expected to fall. Businesses that import parts, like a custom bicycle shop, can now lower prices and become more competitive. The ruling also brings stability, allowing companies to plan, invest, and hire with greater confidence. The uncertainty over tariffs had stifled growth and investment. Now, with clear rules, businesses can move forward. Lower prices and renewed business investment will ripple through the economy, benefiting families nationwide. The Supreme Court's decision is more than a legal victory. It's a win for consumers and economic certainty. The effects will be felt in every household and business across the country. With the tariffs struck down, attention turned to the staggering sum collected. Estimates range from $750 billion to $1 trillion. The government now faces the prospect of refunding these illegally collected tariffs to American importers. This would be the largest tariff refund in U.S. history, posing a massive challenge for the Treasury. Refunds would go to U.S. businesses, from multinationals to small firms, many of whom struggled under the tariffs. The process will be complex, with thousands of claims and no clear roadmap. Legal and financial firms are already offering to buy refund rights, betting they can navigate the bureaucracy. The government must identify eligible payments and process claims, an unprecedented administrative task. The Treasury will have to pay out up to $1 trillion, raising questions about how to manage the fiscal shock. The scale and complexity of these refunds are unlike anything the government has faced before. Not everyone is celebrating. Treasury officials warn that refunding up to $1 trillion could destabilize government finances. The loss of tariff revenue leaves a major budget gap, while the sudden payouts create new fiscal challenges. Beyond economics, the ruling weakens the president's leverage in foreign policy. The tariffs had been used as bargaining chips in negotiations on issues from trade to international security. Without this tool, officials fear the president's hand is weakened in future global talks. The decision forces a recalibration of both economic and diplomatic strategies in Washington. The Supreme Court's ruling reshapes but does not erase presidential power over tariffs. Presidents can still use other laws like Section 232 for national security or Section 301 for unfair trade, but these are narrower and require specific justifications. The immediate challenge is unwinding the Liberation Day tariffs and processing millions of refund claims, a process that could take years. Congress may step in to clarify the law or address the budget shortfall. The decision reasserts congressional authority over taxation and trade, sending a clear message to future presidents. Broad-based tariffs now require explicit congressional approval, not just emergency powers. This landmark case will shape presidential strategy and global trade for years to come. The balance of power in Washington and the rules of global commerce have been fundamentally changed.